You ready to talk about these cops and vaccines?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I've been ready to talk about this, man. This shit is a real mess. Like, it's a mess. So, essentially, I mean, honestly, I guess this really shouldn't come to anyone as any surprise, right? Because wherever there is conservative leadership throughout the country, in those particular counties or states or whatever, right? Wherever there is conservative leadership, most of those places have been just overrun with COVID, right? Whether you want to talk about Florida, obviously lots of places in like Texas and just in the South in general. And don't get it twisted though, right? Because these quote unquote liberal havens are no better, right? Like, we live in California, and I don't even think I need to say anything about what the numbers are out here. Like, it's been bad since the beginning. You know what I mean? So, but I only say that this is why it should come to us as no surprise that LAPD and really just the police departments all throughout the South Bay are all just kind of like getting thrown around by COVID. Like, it's really bad. I think the statistic regarding the LAPD is like maybe more than a quarter are believed to have contracted COVID at some point during the pandemic, and that's not just resulting in like, I don't say that to say that like a lot of people are just getting it and then, they get over it and they go back to work. No, like a lot of these cats are dying. Like, and, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to pretend to be out here like crying and losing sleep over the fact that this is happening. But simultaneously, I bring it up to say, like, it's so wild to me that these people are put in a position to quote unquote protect us, and they can't even protect themselves or the people around them, right? And I'm not saying this to say that they just aren't, they need to be out in the street shooting at COVID or something, because I think that's the only tool in their toolbox. But to say that the obvious things that you would expect people to, employ to protect themselves, be it either mask or vaccine, cops out here in Southern California have been proven 1,000 times over to just not be interested in using either of those tools. I mean, you can just Google LAPD unmasked or hop on Twitter and look up, hundreds of images of just cops out here just not wearing masks, like just refusing to do so. Whether they're conversing with each other or interacting with people that they're trying to arrest or speak to, just regular civilians on the street. It's messy. It's real messy, man. And so I think what I really want to talk about is this mandate, right? Because I want to say that it came down recently that we have a vaccine mandate for city employees out here in the general LA area. And so the cops aren't really responding well to this, which isn't, I mean, again, not hard to predict because there's so many like conservative formations within departments, or not even really within, like it really is the formation itself, right? Just like police departments in general. But yeah, man, so what happened is essentially this mandate comes down and they've been surveying their departments to see who is and is not getting vaccinated, right? But it wasn't until recently that they actually started like checking. Like I think initially it was they would give you a form, yes you are, no you aren't, or you could just not fill it out at all, right? But once they got a little bit more strict about like, no, we need to know whether or not you are vaccinated, I think, oh my goodness, the increase in people that actually start to get vaccinated after that fact, right, after it got more strict, was like exponential. Like it was a ridiculous jump in numbers. Let me see if I can find it here. I want to say the percentage point was something wild. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it in front of me right now. I have to see if I can find it later. But one of the things that kind of encapsulates like the hesitance here, right, is that I'll read this straight from LA Times because they did some pretty good reporting on it. So more than 2,600 LAPD employees have indicated that they plan to pursue religious exemptions, while more than 360 plan to seek medical ones. But there's more to it though, right? So LAPD personnel are heavily represented among those who may seek religious exemptions. They make up less than 22% of city employees, but account for more than 50% of those planning to seek an exemption on the basis of religion, right? So I'll say that again. 22% of city employees, that's what they represent. But 50% of those planning to seek an exemption on the basis of religion, right? Mm-hmm. And so clearly there's a big shift. As soon as this mandate came down, there was a big shift towards like, okay, how can we get out of doing this, right? How can we do it? And hey, maybe a lot of those people, maybe a lot of those cops like have religions that somehow have something to do with these vaccines, right? I haven't read a lot of like religious texts. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what they'd say about Pfizer in the Bible or anything like that. I'm not going to say anything about it. I don't know. But it is wild to me that you have a religion or claim to have a religion that does not allow you to have a vaccine, but does allow you to be part of a, dominating force within your community that allows you to run around shooting people in the back and, having all of these sexual assault situations swept under the rug and all of these things, right? All of these things. It's like gangs, right? With the sheriff's department, the LA Sheriff's Department. Right. All of this stuff your religion allows, but when you got to get that shot, all of a sudden the hesitancy comes out. And my principles, my morals, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just about to mention that before you did that. All of a sudden, like, the most brutal gang members in all of LA are suddenly these like, God-obeying Christians or what have you, like.
And so I think where it is right now is there is a belief that more than like around a quarter of the LAPD workforce might actually be trying to like seek out these exemptions, which is just, I mean, what do you even say, bro? Like at that point, it's comical. Like, are y'all serious with this? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know how you feel about this, but I have come around to the idea that there are some people for legitimate health reasons just aren't going to be able to get this vaccine, right? They don't have the immune system to be able to deal with it. They don't, or whatever. I've come to understand this. But we are bombarded 24/7 with the notion that we have to give cops the utmost respect because the position that they have taken on is that of the guardian of our communities, right? And overall the guardians of our society, right? And they sacrifice to do so, right? That's what we're told every day.
Yeah.
And so when they go out and they stop your cousin on a bullshit, biking violation, and then they shoot him a couple of times and then he dies, right? We're supposed to just eat that because it's like, well, they have a hard job. They're under, a lot of stress and tension, whatever. Mm-hmm. Or when the George Floyd situation happens, the cops that are just standing there watching, we're supposed to forgive them because, hey, it's a tough job. You have to make snap decisions and whatever. But here, right, when the decision seems very clear and this all seems very, very simple, we're not supposed to demand that sacrifice of them. Like, okay, let's say, for instance, that, all of these people actually have, I think the number was about 360 of them want medical exemptions, right? And okay, let's say that's all legit claims and they are potentially at risk of, getting the vaccine and then it having negative effects towards them. I gotta tell you, bro, I don't fucking care, right? Because we're told at all times that these people are like the cream of the crop of our society, which is why they're appointed to sacrifice, right. Emphasis on sacrifice for, their position to protect us. Well, this is your moment to go sacrifice, bro. Go get your shot. If it go the wrong way, it go the wrong way. If it go the right way, congratulations, you now get to protect us. Like, this is where I get confused because it's like, yo, you want to be brave, you want to have, you wear the uniforms and stroll off to these neighborhoods like you own them and like you have complete control over them. And then the second you actually have to potentially make a sacrifice that doesn't involve you running up in somebody's neighborhood with a gun, then it's like, well, I don't know, my religion says I can't do it. It's like, nah, man. To me, this is so weak. This is so weak to me.
Yeah, and who has to pay the actual price of all of these hogs not wanting to get their shot? It's our communities, right? Because at the end of the day, they're still going to be in our communities, whether they're unvaccinated or vaccinated. And they're going to be spreading COVID without the shot at greater rates than they would with the shot. So we're paying the price again for bullshit the cops are doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the wild thing is, bro, like people talk about super spreaders. Like, no, cops are the like super spreaders. And I'm not saying this because there's any statistics showing that they've, given a lot of people COVID. I'm saying they're the ultimate super spreaders because if a cop pulls you over, or if a cop stops you on the street, or if a cop, initiates any type of altercation with you or situation, or dialogue with you, you are not in a position. They do so without a mask in this situation. You are not at liberty to just walk away, right? Like if I walk up to you without a mask and I potentially have COVID, you can just leave, right? Or beat the shit out. I mean, you have two choices, right? You can beat me up or you walk away. The cop has you hostage in that situation, right? They have you, and I mean, this is something we see in the prison system, right? Over the course of COVID, it was running rampant. COVID was running rampant in prisons, right? And still is in all likelihood.
Yeah, it is.
And that wasn't happening because of the prisoners, right? Like the prisoners are in prison. They're not going anywhere. They're not meeting any new people. It was the guards and the staff of the prisons bringing COVID in and then spreading it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The same situation to some extent, to a lesser degree, applies here. If these people are running around unvaccinated, unmasked, and doing whatever they want, how can they protect anybody? I don't care if they stop you from getting robbed. If that conversation they have with you afterwards, they give you COVID, like, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? And so I found this statistic, by the way. The COVID vaccination rate amongst Los Angeles Police Department employees jumped about 10% in 2 weeks once the department actually began checking vaccination cards.
Mm-hmm.
So once they actually started checking for the cards, instead of just kind of being like, hey, are you vaccinated? Cool. All right, I don't need to check. Right? Once they actually started checking, the percentage jumped 10%.
Right.
So essentially to say that once they actually started checking, the cops were like, oh, we actually have to do this now. Like, we can't just keep lying and saying we are, right?
Right. We can't get away with one thing for once, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have to be held accountable. And at the end of the day, that's really what I want to talk about here today, is accountability. Because I mean, the fact is, if we can't get cops to do this, right?
Yeah.
This very simple thing. And I'm not even just talking about, again, it's not just about the vaccinations. Even if you don't want to do that for, religious reasons, medical, fine. But wear a fucking mask, right? And we can't even get that. You know what I mean? And so it's like, if we can't hold them accountable on this thing, if we haven't organized in such a way, or for the liberal crowd, if they haven't voted in such a way that we've created a power dynamic that allows us to hold them accountable for something like this, how in the hell are we going to hold somebody accountable for when they shoot someone in our neighborhood, dead, or commit harm to anybody in our neighborhoods? You know what I mean? What hope do we have to do that? And so, again, this is one of those things that's easier said than done, but we got to start organizing for control of the police, if we want to at some point abolish them or hold some type of power over them to control what is it that they are doing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I just felt like this was a good look into that, right? Because again, if you can't get them to just put a needle in their arm real quick or just put a mask over their face, you're not going to stop them from running in your neighborhood and doing whatever it is that they want to do.
Right. Yeah, that's totally true. And another point I want to bring up is that COVID is the number one cop killer right now, I believe, right? And it's not gunfire, it's not gun violence, it's COVID right now. It's really doing numbers in police departments, and the same reactionary formations that were creating really stupid slogans like "Blue Lives Matter." Where the fuck are they? Where's like it? Which just goes to show that bullshit was just a racist reaction against Black Lives Matter, and that they really don't give a fuck about cops as much as they say they do. There's just a lot of racist people saying shit like that, because if they were really all about that, then where's the value for blue lives right now? Because they're being murked by COVID, dude, and No one seems to give a fuck. It's still, well, it's my personal freedom to get the shot or not. Well, this and that. It's like, all right then, then don't get the shot. Then don't get it then. Then don't get it. Fuck it.
I suppose I'm laughing because I'm imagining in my head like a white lead formation, like trying to stop, like just like begging like cops to like wear masks and stuff because they genuinely care about their lives or something.
Please.
Like that would be fascinating to see, and the cops just be like, "No, we don't want this at all." Like at that point, we might actually see the cops turn against the the Blue Lives Matter movement. Which would be like, the simulation would break at that point.
Yeah, because if they actually meant what they mean by saying that, by uttering Blue Lives Matter, then you think the least they would do is go up to their local sergeant, like, please wear a mask, like, please get your shot. But they're not, because it wasn't, it was just a fucking racist reaction. That's all it was.
Exactly. But so last thing. So as we sit here and we talk about police accountability, or holding police accountable, however you want to say it. Right now, I think on Newsom's desk is Senate Bill 2, which is which would provide a process by which we could decertify cops, given what would you call it? Given inappropriate behavior, right? And obviously, somebody with my politics, and I assume yours, being a cop is just inappropriate behavior, but baby steps, right?
Yeah.
So I suppose I won't pretend to have looked like thoroughly through the bill, but I would imagine that in the event that a ridiculous amount of, if a unnecessary amount of harm was done to someone, or inappropriate behavior was enacted upon someone, that would probably lead to a process by which that cop could be decertified and not allowed to do so elsewhere. And one of the wild things is, like, apparently we're kind of late on this. Speaking of California, apparently there's a lot of states that have already have this on the books. Now maybe they have it on the books, but it's toothless, right? Like, it's not actually something that you really use. It's just kind of there as a way to say, well, we have that process, right? I won't pretend to know. I'd imagine so, because it's just hard for me to imagine most states holding any cop accountable for anything. But yeah, apparently California is late on this, but it did pass Senate. It is sitting on the desk of Newsom right now. And so, yeah, like I have to fall in line with everybody else who is demanding that he, sign this into law, and make it happen, bro. I mean, he won the recall. See, that's the problem. We probably should have did this before he won the recall, because he was being real nice prior. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was handing out the stimulus checks. He avoided all my parking tickets. I was like, okay, Newsom, you're being a little less useless these days. But I think he's comfy now. I don't think we're getting anything else from this point on.
Yeah, we'll see with him. But you're totally right about us being late. Like, the fucking shot's been out since like February, dude. Since like January, February, and like this mandate is like barely a conversation that we're having. It's fucking almost.
Hey, but listen. Honestly, I am astonished. I mean, what's the number? I don't even know what the total like U.S. deaths is at this point. I think L.A. County is like 60,000+, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, U.S. deaths is like 700,000.
Yeah, I think L.A. County COVID deaths is like 60,000+, I want to say. 60? But I'm going to Google this because y'all not going like facts only me. 68,000 deaths in LA County, right? And so, it took a long time to get here. It took a lot of people dying for them to even consider, like, hey, maybe those people that we send out to, like, quote unquote protect people, maybe we should put them in a position where they're not endangering people simply by breathing, right? So yeah, man. I mean, honestly, but even with like, even looking at that number, right? 68,000+ deaths. Even as I'm looking at that, I'm like, damn, I'm still surprised they did it. Like, I really didn't think that they were going to look them cops in the face. And by the way, some of those LAPD officers are not just taking the route of, are not just taking the route of my religion or my medical circumstances don't allow me to. Some of them are actually currently suing against this mandate, suing in hopes of ending this mandate. And if I'm not mistaken, one of their arguments is that so many of them have already caught COVID that their immune systems are strong enough and therefore don't need the vaccine, which is just like a galaxy brain argument.
We got the antibodies already, man.
But just really think about that, right?
Yeah.
They're saying so many of us have already been ravaged by this virus that we don't even need the vaccine, bro. Like, we are the antibodies. Like, y'all should be taking our blood and using that shit as the vaccine.
That's wild.
Which is just like, hey, man, y'all got it, bro. Y'all got it.
That is wild. But yeah, man, I had a question, actually. I'm not sure if you knew the answer, but if for sure Newsom signed this into law and it for sure became law and cops still refuse, would they then be fired? Like, how does that work?
Oh, well, so the mandate is legit. It's happening. When I was saying Newsom needs to sign into law would be the decertification bill, Senate Bill 2. But currently, I think the deadline for the mandate is sometime in October, I want to say. I believe the deadline is in October. Yeah, under the ordinance passed last month by City Council, city employees must get vaccinated against COVID by October 5th, unless they are granted like a religious or medical exemption, right?
So, but they would be terminated unless given an exemption.
See, I feel like that might stand. Here, I'll read the whole thing and then you tell me what your interpretation of this is. By October 5th, unless they are granted a religious or medical exemption, those who receive exemptions will be subject to regular testing for the coronavirus. The vaccination requirements become a condition of city employment on October 20th. So it being a condition of their employment would suggest that they would be fired were they not vaccinated. Now, with that said, it is very, very hard for me to imagine the city or even the state looking at cop unions and being like, hey, we're going to start firing y'all if you don't get vaccinated. I'm like, it's just very hard for me to imagine them having the balls to do that. Like, maybe they do it, but I don't know.
No, I agree, but it's crazy because I think for public school teachers, I think to some degree, I'll double check this, but I think you can end up getting fired if you're a public school teacher and if you don't want to get vaccinated, if you don't have an exemption. But I agree with you that I can't see that happening to cops. But that's wild. Like, that'll happen to your teacher that you're like, yeah, okay, like, your teacher's a little weird about vaccines or saying some weird shit that it's fake or whatever. But they're your teacher, you love them, right? They're helping you out through high school or whatever. But a cop who's supposed to be protecting your community supposedly and being held to a higher standard of behavior, it's really hard for me to see them being fired, which is interesting.
Yeah. I will say, though, I feel like teachers should be, like, hella on their vaccination game only because them kids going to be roasting you. Them kids are going to be roasted. Like, imagine a teacher trying to, like, make a comment about your intelligence and, like, they out here on some anti-vax stuff. Like, come on, bro.
Right.
I'm not expecting that.
You don't even got your vax.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, to me, that's like, or even if you don't have it, that's fine. But if you are like anti-vax and you my teacher, it depends. I guess it depends on what type of teacher you are too, right? Like, obviously you can't be like biology on that nonsense. Or like my science teacher, I might let the English teacher get. Nah, I would be disappointed if the English teacher was like that. I'm gonna be with you. We on a hell of a tangent right now.
I think the art teacher. I can see the art teacher slide. No, I can see sliding. The fucking auto teacher. I can see the auto teacher sliding.
Gym teacher was anti-vax before COVID even hit.
Yeah.
So. The gym teacher wasn't even getting the flu shot.
Gym teachers and your auto shop teacher, they're not getting vaccinated.
Oh my God! All right, man. Let's wrap this up because we about to go way off the rails.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, I just can't stress enough that these people are out in our communities every day, and they can't do the bare minimum. We kind of knew this already, but I don't know. I feel like the pandemic has really just like pulled the curtain back on everybody in regards to like our government system, cops, right? They won't even get a shot for you. It's really hard to say like what else, what else they're willing to not do. It's really sad.
Yeah, it's real. Yeah. It's real though.
So if you would like to donate to South Bay Community Care, it's a mutual aid organization that Leon and I distribute meals with. And we also run other programs, and we build power in our communities. We have a coffee, a Cash App, a Venmo. They're going to be on the screen right now. And yeah, just go hit that up and donate what you can.
Yeah, man. Colder weather's starting to come in. I mean, colder weather for Southern California. So, we always appreciate, the cash donations, or if you want to hit us in our DMs, if you have like coats and stuff like that, we'll probably start moving those into our storage unit. So we'd appreciate that very much. And honestly, also, come join, bro. If you want to come get into the work, whether that be on our abolitionist projects or our mutual aid projects or any of these things, like tap in, let's make a move.
Yeah, and I'll drop our social media for that too, and I can even put our email if you're really interested in joining. And yeah, give this video a like, give it a subscribe so we can continue to grow this subscription number up. It's at 30 now. I can't wait to see where else it can go. And yeah, we'll see you guys later.
Peace.